And our first story, the president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has announced up to 100 worshippers could congregate in churches, mosques, and other places of worship from June 5. Now, the threshold is, however, 25% attendance, which also means the number could be smaller for congregations with smaller numbers. Speaking during his 10th address to the nation on measures government is currently taking to fight the coronavirus pandemic, the president also explained that leaders of these bodies are, however, expected to ensure their members adhere to proper social distancing protocols during worship.
Fellow Ghanaians, with effect from Friday, 5th June, we will begin stage 1 of the process of easing restrictions. An abridged format for religious services can commence. 25% attendance with a maximum number of 100 congregants can worship at a time in church or at the mosque with a mandatory 1 meter rule of social distancing between congregants. In addition to the mandatory wearing of masks for all persons at all times in churches and mosques, a register of names and contact details of all worshippers and hand-washing facilities and sanitizers must be provided with a maximum duration of 1 hour for each service. Religious institutions that are desirous of opening their premises to their members, such as churches, mosques, and others, must disinfect, fumigate, and put in place the requisite logistics needed to guarantee safe opening and operationing. They must work with the designated regulatory bodies and undertake test runs of the protocols I have outlined. I would appeal to them, in the case of Christians, on the first Sunday of reopening, i.e. 7th June, in the case of the Adventists, Saturday, 6th June, and in the case of Muslims, on the first Friday, i.e. Salat al-Jum'ah, on 5th June, to dedicate their worship to prayers for the nation in these challenging times. The Minister for Religious Affairs will tomorrow, Monday, 1st June, outline in detail the specific guidelines for the safe reopening of our churches and mosques.
President Akufo-Addo also lifted the ban on educational institutions for only final year students to return and study for their respective exit examinations.
From Monday, 15th June, the decision has been taken after engagement with the teacher unions, whose cooperation I salute, to reopen schools and universities to allow for final year, junior high, senior high, and university students to resume classes ahead of the conduct of their respective exit examinations. Indeed, final year university students are to report to their universities on 15th June. Final year senior high school SHS3 students, together with SHS2 Go Track students, on 22nd June. And final year junior high school JHS3 students on 29th June. JHS3 classes will comprise a maximum of 30 students. SHS classes a maximum of 25 students. And university lectures will take place with half the class sizes. All final year students of educational and training institutions, which are being managed by ministries other than the Education Ministry, are to return to school on 15th June to complete their exit examinations. Again, prior to the opening of schools and universities, the Ministry of Education and the heads of public and private educational institutions will fumigate and disinfect their institutions. Each student, teacher, and non-teaching staff will be provided with reusable face masks by the Ministry of Education. With the avoidance of doubt, all other educational facilities private and public, for non-final year students will remain closed. The Minister for Education in the coming days will outline in detail the specific guidelines for the safe reopening of our schools and universities.
On the sidelines, in the first week of March, when Ghana started seeing its first number of cases of coronavirus, the United States had also started recording theirs, with over 100,000 deaths in America as at May 31. The situation is far different in Ghana, and others begs the question, why are we not dying? Love FM's Kwesi Deborah speaks with the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science, Technology, virologist and immunologist, Dr. Mohammed Mutuchelo, to get some responses.
By June, we were told by June everything is going to be over. But we are in June, and over 30 million population is in the pink of health. We're having about 7,000 confirmed cases, over 2,000 recoveries, and a little over 30 deaths. Calculate the case fatalities. So, why are we not dying? Is it the sun? Is it our genes or the environment?
I'm going to speculate from immunological point of view, and I'll come to environmental. Now, from the immunological point of view, people in Ghana or sub-Saharan Africa, their immune system is already on the alert. When we compare to the outside world, they do get viral infections all right, like when the flu season comes. But comparatively, they have their immune system is exposed to less or fewer types of infections. Then the other factors are environmental. So in Europe and America, they live in massive buildings. So you have to go through the escalator, you have to go through the lifts. The environment is, the weather is cold, so the virus survives for more time. And then the probability that one will pick it up during the lifts or going up is so high. If you look at their apartment, they live in tower blocks. We don't live that way in this country, although people live in compound houses. It's just exposed to the environment, the dryness. The virus doesn't thrive much in dry conditions. And then they also have a larger population of aged. In Africa, the people you are seeing living at the moment, like you and I and the rest, are naturally selected because our health system is so fragile that it's more or less like survival of the fittest. Up there in the UK, the Europe, and then North America, they have a very good health system. So a lot of people survive. If they were here in Africa, they would have died by now. So when pandemics comes like that, these people who I would put not very strong naturally or immunologically, are susceptible. And then we also have the smoking population. This is a respiratory disease. So you have a huge or very good number of the people smoke. And smoke naturally weakens the lung tissues. So when people get these infections, it kills them quicker.
April and May were all bark and no bite. This and others were perhaps crucial in this fight. You must always try to mask up. Always try to mask up. Well, lucky. My name is Kwesi Deborah for Joy News.
Oh, very dramatic reports there, but that takes us to the Western region, where 30 health workers at the Takwa Nswaye municipality have tested positive for coronavirus. And this is according to the municipal health director, Dr. Caroline Efautu. The municipality has also recorded over 100 cases, making the whole municipality the second hotspot in the Western region. There's more in this report by Nathalia Kwanza.
Goldfields Ghana Limited, Mr. Robert Siao, in his remarks, as he presented the items, urged the Assembly to reinforce measures as it makes best use of these items to curtail the spread of infection. He emphasized that the municipality ought to take preventive etiquettes seriously, especially at the time when it has been identified as a hotspot for the disease.
So far, Goldfields had spent around $833,000 to support the government and the municipal directorate to fight this deadly virus. It is unfortunate that at this point our municipality, and for that matter the region, has become a hotspot. Notwithstanding that, we believe in the municipal COVID committee that with the assistance we are providing, they will stem the tide of the spread. Goldfields will want to take an opportunity to urge all Ghanaians to make a pledge to ourselves. And the pledge to ourselves is to survive this pandemic, to protect our children, to protect our spouses, to protect our colleague workers, our friends, and the general public. Goldfields want to see everybody alive at the end of this pandemic.
Municipal Chief Executive for Takwa Nswaye, Benjamin Kese, admonished residents in the municipality to acknowledge the realities and threatening nature of the coronavirus on society and lives.
It is so unfortunate that our area is declared epicenter. Very, very unfortunate. And from what we're hearing from the experts, the spread is community-based. So clearly, everybody here is at risk, and we cannot fight this pandemic the way we're doing these days. I went to the marketplace yesterday, and I was not impressed at all how the citizenry are conducting themselves with regards to, keeping to the protocols. So I will reiterate the call from the Goldfields representative that we have to be serious with the protocols. We have to be disciplined. We have to admit that it is real. Coronavirus is real. Until we make these admissions, we won't take the protocol serious. We are grateful to Goldfields.
Away from COVID-19 related stories, after years of battling snake bites to access the only source of water available to them, and countless deaths that they remember from waterborne diseases, residents of Bontebo can now heave a sigh of relief. Now, people in this small area in the Nkwanta South district of the Oti region now get access to potable water from a borehole built for them by Promacido Ghana Limited. They are producers of cowbell milk. As part of the company's 20th anniversary celebrations, it is also building 10 of these boreholes across Ghana. Justice Beidou has been finding out what difference clean drinking water could make in Bontebo.
Forgive Pogli hasn't made this journey in a while. Once upon a time, this was a daily routine. Now the road leading to the stream is bushy. She and her friend Millicent have come here because I've asked them to show me the routes that they walked for years to get water.
We have been seeing some snake, they said cobra. We have been seeing them there, and the green ones. We have been seeing them also there. So when we go, sometimes they'll be in the water or they are on top of the leaves before we go. And so when we see them, then we run back home.
Sometimes if you see it, you yourself can be afraid.
This is Bontebo, the community where Forgive comes from. No electricity, a rundown road network, and no mobile telephony network. This is nothing different from what an average Ghanaian village looks like. It's in the Nkwanta South district in the Oti region.
We've been looking for this for a very long time at Bontebo Junction. It has been their worry, looking for this pipe. Because of the situation, they've not been giving them.
It is the reason why villagers are gathered here to show what the change means to them. In 2019, Tomasido Ghana Limited built this borehole here.
When I started campaigning, the people at Bontebo Junction said I should try to give them borehole. So when I saw them giving them the borehole, I was so happy because it's a dream come true.
Well, we have to wrap up, but before we go, he has turned the community wastewater treatment plant into an aquaculture facility, breeding fish that is now safe for consumption. This process is saving the environment while also ensuring food security. This is the story of Trimark Aquaculture Company, a fish and farming company that is currently using innovative ways of mitigating the impact of climate change. This is part of Joy News Climate Focus project, which highlights the work of entrepreneurs whose innovations have helped combat climate change. It's brought to you by the Ghana Climate Innovation Center, GCIC.
Access to improve sanitation is a challenge for millions of people in Ghana. About 23 million Ghanaians do not have access to improved sanitation, and 3 million do not have access to safe drinking water. Solutions to this challenge could greatly reduce related diseases and mortality. In most urban cities, domestic wastewater, especially black and grey waters, are discharged into the environment and treated. This wastewater ends up contaminating surface waters and underground water sources. Although many of the metropolitan, municipal and district assemblies have wastewater treatment facilities, just a few of them function.
Wastewater treatment plants of this nature exist in Ghana here. More than 10% of them are, less than 10% of them are working. The rest are not functioning because there is an issue of lack of funds on the part of the district assemblies to maintain and operate these treatment plants.
Makibwe Japan is the founder and center director of Trimark Agriculture Center. He has been conducting studies on nutrient recovery from communal wastewater, that is black, grey and kitchen spent water sources, for commercial fish production in Ghana since 2010 till date. He is currently running a pilot business model in recycling wastewater for fish production in Kumasi. The Ghana Climate Change Innovation Center has been providing technical and financial support to Trimark for many years.
Trimark is in the Chapatre district of in the Ashanti region. And within that community, there are a number of outlets in terms of wastewater from their septic, from their wherever, all the wastewater that comes from the community. He is a fish farmer. And ordinarily, people will buy fresh water to breed or brood their fishes. Now he has a technology that would convert the wastewater from the communities and use that wastewater to brood the fish.
Trimark Aquaculture, our business model has been structured such that we reuse the water to generate revenue, grow fish to generate revenue, where the proceeds received from the sales of the fish is channeled back into the maintenance of these treatment plants to address the issue of lack of maintenance for operations of these treatment plants in Ghana.
Well, innovation and adding value to the environment. What a way. And it's a new focus that we're giving to things being done for the climate. It's brought to you by the Ghana Climate Innovation Center. Well, that'll be it for now, but we also have a great team led by Derek Ekosam. We're bringing to you review of the newspapers. Myself and Gifty Ando-Apia. Next. Well, we're here, Gifty. Good morning. I hope you had a great weekend.
Good morning. I've had a great working weekend, and I'm very excited that it's a new month. June promises to be an amazing month, depending on how you do it. I just urge everybody to take it as a new start, a new beginning, and work out the things you couldn't do in May.
Great. I love your new hair.
Thank you. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, you look good in the colors too. Well, we have to do the newspapers, and the president amazingly decided to go according to our predictions. This is the first time I've been a prophet. I think I can open a church. What do you think?
Well, we can start somewhere.
Roland Walker Ministries International. Won't be bad. This is everybody's converting, so maybe I'll convert first. Let's see whether I can get some congregants.
You will. Anything you start, you get people to follow you.
Amen.
That's one thing I've realized.
Amen. And there'll be massive spraying of the mosques and the churches, etc., before the schools. And I know that Zoom Lion, its Vectopest partners have been doing a great number of work. I have to say good morning to Robert Coleman. You're the chief executive for Wembley Sports Construction Ghana Limited. They're watching us currently, and also say Dr. Siang Ejapong, the executive chair of the Just One Group, doing amazing work during this period. Well, are you ready?
It's another week of dedication. It's
Fast, we've started. No, but this time I've started well. It's full of disinfection, fumigation, and all that. So, Charlie, you're kind of full.
I'll start with the Daily Graphic newspaper. The Daily Graphic newspaper has a picture of the president. It says COVID-19 pandemic restrictions eased. Schools reopen for final year students. Abridged religious activities begin. I like the way they put it. Abridged reopen. Well, abridged religious activities begin. Borders remain closed. Limited political activities. So they essentially put the summary there for you if you get the Daily Graphic newspaper. And the story is by Kwame Asare-Boadu and Rosalind K. Amo. President Nana Akufo-Addo has announced the phased easing of COVID-19 restrictions beginning June 5, 2020 at his 10th update on Ghana's enhanced response to the coronavirus pandemic last night. It goes on and on with that particular story. Zoom Lion begins disinfection of mosques. That story is also on the Daily Graphic front page. COVID-19 updates the case, as you know, as according to President Akufo-Addo last night, 8,070 now, and 2,947 people have recovered. We have one more death, actually two more over the weekend. So right now, from Friday's 36 people have died. And the Volta Lake boat disaster, 6 more bodies retrieved. Actually, yesterday we did that story and we're told that 7 more bodies have actually been retrieved. But that story is on page 11. And EC's decision to compile new voters register laudable. That's according to Jacob Osei Yebua. He was an independent candidate in the previous election. On the back page of the Daily Graphic, Alternative Livelihood Project makes positive impact. Well, that sounds like a good story by Timothy Nebe. It says the Alternative Livelihood Project, that's the ALP, that was introduced by the government to help stop illegal mining, is yielding positive results in the Denchembour district in the eastern region. They say out of over 10,000 youth who registered for the oil palm farming component of the ALP in the district last year, about 5,000 are currently actively participating in it, which is a good thing. But people have argued that when people have seen money, these kinds of monies don't really impress them. But hopefully we make something good out of this. And Yinem Kwabeng Road upgrade nears completion. It's also a story on the back page of the Ghanaian Times, of the Daily Graphic newspaper. The center spread has Zoom Lion, says Zoom Lion begins disinfection of mosques. Post-COVID-19, your food will come from Wenchi. And that's a story written by Kojo Frimpong. He's also, I think he's looking to go into Parliament some point. Yeah, so that's what we have on the center spread of the Daily Graphic newspaper. Why don't you grab yourself a copy or download the app and take a look at the other stories. Well, after Daily Graphic, let me continue with the Ghanaian Times, as it were. Ghanaian Times has a story that says 500,000 smokers risk contracting COVID-19. That's a very interesting part of the COVID-19 story I haven't heard. As nation marks World No Tobacco Day, the FDA is making that warning, is putting in that warning that 500,000 smokers risk contracting COVID-19. Also comes with a picture of Zoom line disinfect Central Mosque in response to Chief Imam's appeal in Student Loan Trust Fund to disburse 32.3 million by end of 2019-2020 academic year. And the story is attributed, I beg your pardon, to Vincent Sifwa, who is the spokesperson, or if you like, the head of communications for the Ministry of Education. And this is a story that people have been complaining about a lot. I mean, most of the students have been asking for their student loan to be dispersed, so sounds like a good deal. But the details will tell us when, how, and will people get their money. That story is on page 12. Take a look at the story in the Ghanaian Times newspaper. 16 women nabbed over fake currency printing distribution in Kumasi. Really? That story is on page 17. Very interesting story, I must say. We'll see if we can make some time to look at that story briefly. On the back page of the Ghanaian Times, what do we have? Yes, so the Ghanaian Times is also reporting the same figures that we had reported earlier. That's 7 bodies retrieved from the Volta Lake accident. The Daily Graphic is reporting 6 more. I don't know how come that discrepancy came up. But then the Minerals Commission to provide free fertilizer for farmers in oil palm plantation, SK Buafo. And it looks like, comes with a picture that actually looks like the one in the Daily, at the back of the Daily Graphic newspaper that talks about the Alternative Livelihood Project making positive impact. Let me quickly end with what's on the center spread. 500,000 smokers risk contracting COVID-19. Let me see if I can read the first paragraph. It says that more than 500,000 people in the country estimated to smoke cigarettes on daily basis and other tobacco users are at a higher risk of contracting COVID-19 and succumbing to it. That's according to the Food and Drugs Authority. You want to, be armed with that information if you want to take that decision. Roland, you don't smoke, do you? I know you don't.
No.
Yeah, I know you don't.
I've tried it before, but no. I've taken a puff, but I'm not sure I smoke.
A number of people have tried it before. So the Student Loan Trust Fund is also, the story is also here. It says that the Student Loan Trust Fund will, by end of this year, the academic year, which is 2019-2030, disburse that amount. It's expected that a further 35 million will be paid before the academic calendar ends, according to the PRO of the Education Ministry. Grab a copy of the paper, take a look at what it said. There's 17-member steering committee to coordinate Beyond Return projects inaugurated. Okay, so what sort of Beyond? So the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture has inaugurated a 17-member steering committee to coordinate the Beyond the Return, a decade of African Renaissance 2020-2030 project. So they're all here in their masks in that photo. And Akachi Chief presents PPE to Akachi North Health Directorate. Get a copy of the Ghanaian Times newspaper. So 2 gone down. Roland, you want to go with
all right, so let me go a couple before you go for your last one.
Yes, please.
And I have the Daily Guide newspaper, and it has on the front page a number of interesting stories. We do have Men's Gold Payboy Saga, Namuan Cash Gang arrested. It has an attached picture of Nana Pia Mensah, aka Namuan. Very interesting as it is. It's been in the news for a couple of years now. We also do have Obinim for court today. Jesus Christ are watching you. New voters register. NDC position observed. EC fires and ignore warmongers. Freddie Blade is chair for the MPP.
Speaking about Freddie Blade, he is on this afternoon on the election brief, our election headquarters program. Exactly, with Araba Kumsin. If you want to hear from the chairman of the NPP, the date you want to make is this afternoon at 1:30 with Araba Concert.
1:30 sharp. Don't miss it for anything. We also do have Zoom Lion, disinfect Central Mosque, and we know that apart from the Central Mosques, though, they have to be disinfecting other mosques and churches as well before, I miss church. So what a way for me to go to Winners Chapel International, the Community 12 branch, which is my resident branch. Let's go to the back page. We have stories all about sports, run Kotoko-like business, and this was called from an interaction. The sports team was Nat Ator, supported by Gary and the rest of the team, George Jr., and all of them put it together, this great interaction with a former defender, played for Bayern Munich and also played in Italy as well. We're talking Samuel Osei Kufuor, stalwart during his time. Kufuor tells new board, run Kotoko-like business. Don't just run Kotoko-like, Charlie. Run it like Manchester United. That's your team, right? Manchester United.
Well, apparently. So the person I was, following said it's Manchester City instead.
Okay, the person you were following rather supports Manchester City. So you're following teams followed by other people.
Yes, because I've not been able to make a choice yet.
Okay, this is a team I follow closely. Chelsea, and one of its players, N'Golo Kante, has been dragged to court over £3.4 million. Gifty has lived in the UK, knows that 3.4 million is a lot of money.
You don't actually need to live in the UK to know that that's a lot of money.
It's like Ghana 3.4 million.
But if you take one CD, that's
that's what you get about seven
or so CDs, then you know that's a lot of money.
I haven't looked at the rates this month, but thank you for drawing my attention. Tony Yeboah chides referees. And football will never be the same again, Lionel Messi says, and it's true. Life actually will never be the same. Let's go to the center spread of the Daily Guide newspaper. It's not over for Komfo Kwade, Gloria Safo says. And then we also have, I don't care what you think of my repentance. Here is another repentance. Kessie, used to be a mentor winner, went to MTN, is it West Africa or something like that? MTN something.
I think it's Project Fame or
Project
something.
Fame, yeah. He placed second in that contest. I watched it, yeah. Now we have other stories there.
But it's good to see Kwade. I mean, I hope that he's doing well.
The story says that believes all hope is not lost. It means that the hope is, so Gloria Safo, the actress, is motivating us to not lose hope in him as she seeks how she can help the musician from his current predicament. Okay. I'm
actually very touched by that story.
You are?
Yeah. I really like the guy.
He was a big hit during his time, I have to predict. But let me just do the last one, and then we'll go on.
Okay.
We have the Daily Dispatch newspaper. How COVID-19 exposed Ghana's living standard. 16.5 million persons do not have toilets at home. It's serious.
But you see, that's a shameful. That's a very shameful thing for us as a country.
Yes.
And we should all.
Is there a home in the UK that doesn't have toilet?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. In fact, there are the toilets that you find at the train stations or the ones that you find. I mean, and I went to the US and we were just traveling. We had a road trip. It was a very long journey. We just, there was just a place that looked like a hotel. It's just a rest stop, and it was really decent. And I think we should be able to
really decent means what?
I mean, it was really decent. It looked.
Beautiful.
Yeah, seriously, I don't know.
I don't know.
We should bow our heads down in shame. Just because you have a toilet in your home doesn't mean you shouldn't be concerned about people.
Read articles by ex-President John Mahama on pages 5 and 9. Daily Dispatch says, Mr. Freddie Blay, that's the second article you also have to read. Mr. Freddie Blay, national chairman of the MPP, also has articles on pages 5, 6, and 9. Meanwhile, as we're getting ready for registration, you need to get yourself acquainted with the numbers, statistics, etc. And so the Daily Dispatch is bringing to us this great education. Age and sex breakdown of the 15.7 million registered voters in all the 10 regions. That was before now. We had 10. in 2016. Please go and read them. Know the numbers so you do the permutation. For those of us who like working out lotto, so we can do the extrapolations. And the back page said new voters register. EC target 60 million. It's on the back page of the Daily Dispatch newspaper, and it's there. 16 million Ghanaians. Meanwhile, the EC is also exposing NDC over 10 p.m. invitation letter. It's all there. Dr. Bosman Asare is a source for all these stories. All right.
Okay. Let me continue.
You have two more.
With the Daily Statesman. The Daily Statesman comes with pictures of Samuel Uku, Professor Boche. Professor Boche's story says, Professor Boche snaps Mahama running mate offer. Page 2. I'll take a quick look at it and see what the story there is actually. And don't allow power to corrupt you with arrogance. Uku to politicians, also on page 2. Places of worship reopen Friday. That's the big story. The banner headline there on the Daily Statesman. The story is also on page 2. And then at the back, on the back page, it's called Sports. Manchester City's Riyad Mahrez robbed at home. Too bad. An Argentine striker secures permanent switch from Inter Milan to PSG. I want to quickly go through the center spread and look at the story. It says Ghana raked in 3.3 billion via year of return. That's according to the tourism minister, Barbara Otin-Jesse. It says that the arts and culture, she's saying that the year of return initiative raked in 3.3 billion into Ghana's economy. According to her, the average expenditure per tourist was 2,391, and it was spent on accommodation. She goes on and on and on with it. So take a look and read that story. One Household, One Garden initiative launched to boost food security. But the story on page 2, that had to do with Professor Boche's snubbing Mahama running mate offer, says with no hope of winning the 2020 presidential election. Sources within the opposition NDC says John Mahama has been hell-bent on picking a person frayed with age as his running mate. I think it'll be an interesting read. You want to take a look at that one. And let me end with the Finder newspaper. Roland, it looks to me as though the Finder newspaper printed much earlier in the day yesterday because they don't seem to have the president's update. It says 113 new infections, 301 recoveries, but actually the figures have also changed right after President Akufo-Addo's.
Over 8,000 now.
Exactly.
So the infection rates, new ones have increased.
So Finder seems to have printed much earlier. The completion date of infectious disease facility shifted to June 30. Well, we had the contractors tell us that it was going to be finished, within the time frame. It looks like that time has changed. And ICOM's takeover at Tema Port today. UK aid back zipline drone facilitates Ghana's COVID-19 fight. Back page advert. Finally, take a look at the center spread. That looks to me like also has completion date. Tallow Oil says 58 workers test positive for COVID-19 offshore Ghana. Access Bank holds virtual AGM for shareholders. ICOM's takeover Tema at port today. UK back a zipline. That story is there. Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications donates to Lepers Aid Committee. So that's it for the Finder newspaper. Roland.
Yeah, we have to look at myjohnonline.com. As we ready it, there's something that's circulating on some of the platforms. So for the Muslim services, that's the mosques, they were going to have for Muslim service one imam, one Adnan caller, 98 worshippers, making up 100. For normal church services, we're ready for myjohnonline.com. There will be one pastor, 4 associate pastors, 10 ushers, 7 instrumentalists, 30 members of the choir. Women's fellowship will have 30 members, men's fellowship 18 members, youth fellowship 15, and first-time visitors 2. And you know that these days in our church, they said you should all get up.
That's not what they say.
What can I say? You don't go to any of the charismatic. Bethel Methodist Church is not the ideal way by which we have to measure.
Excuse me?
More orthodox. You're international, more international.
I don't want to have this debate right now.
Okay.
myjoyonline.com. What does it say? Okay. So churches and mosques to reopen from June 5. with only 100 congregants at a time. And Roland was giving you what the breakdown would look like. You know, the singers, and I sing in church, so I'm looking at the singers, the instrumentalists, and all of that. Well, we have a playback of President Akufo-Addo's address there as well. You can click on it, take a look. Ghana to evacuate stranded citizens abroad, but borders remain closed. I'm wondering why it comes with a picture of Sarkodie. Ayaka Quinto. All right, churches, mosques can open for a maximum of 1 hour per service. And later on in the studio, we'll be talking about how the Christian Council envisages this will be exactly fold out. And then Ablakwa unfold, I wanted to say, sorry. Ablakwa Lord's green light for evacuation of Ghanaians stranded abroad. Those are all stories at myjoyonline.com for you. Take a look at that website.
And Gifty, I wanted us to talk about, we don't have the time, so we'll push it to the discussion about how
you keep wrapping me up. So
yeah,
I'm wondering
how we're going to cope. So we have this conversation with the Muslims, and the Sheikh himself, Arimi Yao, will be here, and then we're going to have the head of the Christian Council also going to be here as well, and so we'll have some great conversation.
We'll also talk to a biologist as well. We'll get their perspective on this new directive, and then we'll also talk to a public health expert as well, find out what they think the implications for this is, and what this are, and what we need to do whilst we settle, you know, with this virus. Roland.
Yeah, we're taking a break. When we come back, we have sports for you right here on the show.
Hi there, it's a brand new week. My name is Benedict. It's always a pleasure joining you on this platform, and it's time to update you in the world of sports. Of course, over the weekend we saw action in the German Bundesliga. Bayern Munich, unstoppable. They won comprehensively away, with Borussia Dortmund back to winning ways as they also won their game. Jadon Sancho scored a hat-trick in their game. We'll show you highlights of how it all happened in the German Bundesliga. But of course, we have to start here from the local scene. And the Ghana FA's quest to return to competitive football has been pushed back again. And this was after President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo announced last night that they extended a suspension of sporting events till the end of July. Take a listen to the president.
I have by executive instrument provided for these new directions and extended the suspension of the remaining public gatherings as set out in EI 64 15th March until 31st July. In here, I refer to the suspension of sporting events, nightclubs, cinemas, drinking spots, bars.
Well, in March, all football activities in Ghana were put on hold because of the coronavirus outbreak. Now, this followed an announcement ordering a suspension of public gatherings, including sports events. And the Ghana FA recently mentioned they were going to take a decision on the future of the leagues on June 30. So the question many are asking is, with this current move by the president, should the league be cancelled or not? Well, former Black Stars defender Samuel Sekofo has an answer.
Germany is in a different level.
Okay.
The Europeans has advanced so much.
All right.
That how many of the players cut their salary to help the clubs, and how many players in this country can just say we rough off our salary to help the clubs? So that will be a disaster. So I think we should wait until President says so. Then we can all enjoy it. If we just say that we are going to compare ourselves to the Europeans in terms of financial, we'll kill ourselves. And we are not yet out there. So I think I will still depend on the decision of the president to come and just give us when and when not to.
All right, so that was a former Black Stars defender, Samuel Sekofo, and he was actually saying that we should all wait for the president to speak, and then we'll know the way forward. So the president has spoken yesterday. He mentioned that the leagues, that's a sporting event, should be on hold for now. So let's get more perspective on this and go over to the phone lines and speak to 11 Wonders CEO, that's Albert Komi. Mr. Komi, thanks so much for joining me. Where are we now, and where do you think we should go?
Hello.
Yes, Mr. Komi, good morning.
Good morning, my brother.
How are you, sir?
I'm good, and you?
By God's grace, I'm doing fine. Thanks for asking. Well, I was asking that, you know, the president yesterday talked about the leagues or the sporting events. Of course, the Football Association had earlier noted that they were going to take a decision on June 30. And with the current, with where we are now, what do you think should be done?
Thank you very much. I think we have no choice than to go by the directives of the president, because he's the father of the nation, and I think that he has been briefed to know the situation at hand, and we need to make sure that at least we adhere to whatever directive that has been given. What I would say is that it's not too pleasant, but do we have any choice? It's our own good, because when you are dealing with a pandemic, you have to be very careful it doesn't escalate. And so in the interest of the nation, we just all have to suffer this. But I think that we need to pray that there will be a divine intervention so that we'll come back to normalcy. There's nothing we can do.
So you are not for cancellation of the league?
Well, I think that we have to be very careful. We have to be careful in the sense that do we know what will happen the next moment? No. If by the 31st we have an improvement, why not? We can start even the league in September and finish. After all, this league started in January. And I think that all that we need to do is to make sure that at least we monitor events and then come back. We shouldn't just chicken out because it's delaying. It's a problem, but please, we are also mindful of the fact that there are other stakeholders whose interests also must be protected. And we need to be very careful how we announce maybe cancellation of it.
But even after, the 31st, I mean, if the league should come back, it definitely is going to be behind closed doors. And you think that's
it depends. It all depends on the situation. For instance, if we've seen a very significant improvement, we can decide to make sure that at least we'll take certain protocols and allow certain number of people, like the churches have been done now. But I think that it all depends on what happens.
Okay.
Because playing behind closed doors brings its own challenges.
Yeah.
Because I think that if as a club, I know that I will not even. I wouldn't go for that because it will be devil us with a lot of deaths that we are going to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Kwame, thanks so much for your time this morning. Really appreciate your time. So that was 11 Wonders CEO Mr. Albert Kwame speaking to us on the way forward, what he thinks should be done in the wake of the president's address yesterday on the ban on sporting events. Well, let's stay here on the low coast and do some more. And as you already heard from Samuel Sekufo, former Ghana defender, well, he insists that the new Ghana FA under the leadership of Keto Kruku is on track in changing the game. Now, according to the former Bayern Munich player who said that's a member on the normalization committee, Kets and the executive council are doing well.
I mean, for me, I think it's too short for us to judge him or to tell him.
You had short time at the NC and you rated 100%.
But listen, how long have we been playing the game? The league is going on, right? If without any COVID, the league has been continuing to play. There, at the end of the season, then we can judge him. I cannot judge him now. I cannot judge him because what I'm seeing, what he's doing, I think he's doing an amazing job. But I will judge him after the season. Or if any team from the national team go to a tournament, then I can judge him. Because I cannot stand here and just say that he's doing a bad thing. No, what I've seen so far, and the team that he's putting in place with his committee, with his people, I think so far, a good credit to him.
Yeah, welcome back to the show. This is the AM show. I am Gifty Andopi. I'm doing this with Roland Walker. Let's get on and talk about the AM talk. I'm interested also to hear from you whether or not you want to go out, whether or not you want to go to church. So we're going to just have an analysis of President Akufo-Addo's address yesterday. And my guest for today for that, Dr. Augustina. Dr. Augustina will be joining us via Zoom. Dr. Augustina Silva-Kin, she is a virologist with KCCR. Doc, it's good to have you. Good morning. Okay, it was good that I said good morning, because now I know that we have to work on your sound. We can't hear you. I also have Professor Alfred Yorsin. Okay, Dr. Silverkin, let's try again, see if I can hear you now. Good morning.
Good morning, Gifty, and a warm good morning to your cherished listeners and viewers.
Thank you very much. Amazing. We got you finally. Professor Yorsin is head of department with the community health of the University of Ghana Medical School. He'll be joining us as well. We'll also be joined by Most Reverend Dr. Paul Kwabena Boafo, who's chairman, Christian Council of Ghana. And right here in the studio, I have with me Sheikh Arimiyahu Shaibu, spokesperson for the National Chief Imam. Sheikh, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, so once again, another good morning to you. I'd like to start with you, Sheikh, to find out, first of all, what do you make of the easing of restrictions that President Akufo-Addo has instituted?
Thank you very much for the opportunity. If you listen to me speaking on behalf of the Chief Imam, last Sunday when we did the virtual celebration of the Eid, we had anticipated, whether in the remote future or immediately, we had anticipated that there could be some easing of this, and so we were even requesting for a program of disinfecting, all Muslim worship centers and schools and other things. So it didn't come to us as a surprise, and hints had been dropped also that there could be. But what form the easing was going to take is something that we were most concerned about, because I had mentioned somewhere that the partial easing will have a certain problem for us, which we have seen, because it's the first stage in the easing, so therefore it's partial. So we had indicated that if it's partial, we might be having some difficulties. If it's complete lifting, then much easier for us. Then the onus will just be on us to really put in place the preventive measures and make sure that we observe those.
Okay.
So I think that President's own assessment, based on consultations with health experts, probably, but we had indicated when we met the Council of State, seeking our views, that said we must tread cautiously and assess the risk involved very well. If in the thinking of the President and those who advise him, the risk is so less for us to go easing, then we have no problem.
Right.
So here we are.
All right, we'll get into the form and talk about the implementation and all of that. But I noticed that your mask is going down as well. You see this happens quite a bit. So when you talk, sometimes when you talk, the mask has a tendency of going down. So I'm going to give Sheikh a little bit of a break. Dr. Silverkin, I'll come to you. But we want to hear the President refresh our memory of what he said yesterday. Listen.
Fellow Ghanaians, with effect from Friday, 5th June, we will begin stage 1 of the process of easing restrictions. An abridged format for religious services can commence. 25% attendance, with a maximum number of 100 congregants, can worship at a time in church or at the mosque, with a mandatory 1 meter rule of social distancing between congregants. In addition to the mandatory wearing of masks for all persons at all times in churches and mosques, a register of names and contact details of all worshippers and hand-washing facilities and sanitizers must be provided, with a maximum duration of 1 hour for each service. Religious institutions that are desirous of opening their premises to their members, such as churches, mosques, and others, must disinfect, fumigate, and put in place the requisite logistics needed to guarantee safe opening and operationing. They must work with the designated regulatory bodies and undertake test runs of the protocols I have outlined. I would appeal to them, in the case of Christians, on the first Sunday of reopening, i.e. 7th June, In the case of the Adventists, Saturday, 6 June. And in the case of Muslims, on the first Friday, i.e. Salat al-Jum'ah, on 5th June, to dedicate their worship to prayers for the nation in these challenging times. The Minister for Religious Affairs will tomorrow, Monday, 1st June, outline in detail the specific guidelines for the safe reopening of our churches and mosques.
As President Akufo-Addo last night there with the state, with an address to the state about easing of the restrictions. Let me come to you, Dr. Silverkin. You heard the president yesterday before he even made this announcement. He talked about he gave us an update on the case count. As far as the president's address yesterday, 8,070 cases so far. 8,070 cases so far. And out of that, 36 people have died. Was the easing of restrictions, as the president announced yesterday, what people like you, virologists, expected?
Gifty, of course, I mean, throughout the week preceding to this announcement, there were a lot of speculations. I don't know whether prophecies. So I think these things were expected, and I'm happy the president actually indicated that this is just a stage one of processes leading to the opening up of the restrictions, and he used certain words, and these words really caught my attention, that we need to be strategic, we must ensure our safety, and these things need to be done gradually. So that if we even look at the things he outlined, i.e. the number of congregants at a specific time, only 1 hour, the wearing of masks, which has to be adhered stringently, registration of names, the prior disinfection and fumigation, and of course, church leaders making sure that all the necessary logistics have been put in place. I think these measures are excellent, but I guess it also behoves on all the church leaders to ensure that these measures have been put in place. The good thing for us is that, and this I think we keep on saying, that some way, somehow, we have become an icon in terms of Ghana. Everybody is looking up to us. And I'm sure we are even also learning from the experiences of other countries such as Germany. But of course, we also need to realize that this issue doesn't, it is not a one jacket fits all. We don't have to take that approach. And I'm happy that we are treading cautiously, because even when it comes to easing up of these, the restrictions on public gatherings, some of them will be released. Others, we still have to make sure that, especially things like footballs and the nightclubs and things like that, they are still under some levels of restrictions. So in terms of the numbers we are seeing, I mean, we've done so very well. We've done more than 220. I'm sure by today we would definitely have reached, or we will reach 220,000 tests, out of which 8,070. This, so in terms of proportion, this is a little over 3.7%. So I guess the president made these announcements, hopefully based on science, hopefully based on data, and of course also hopefully based on advice from his advisors. But I am looking really forward to the Minister for Religious Affairs coming out to outline specifically, because, for example, if you are saying that the time for worship should be 1 hour, I don't know whether the registration of names of all congregants will be part of this 1 hour, and then in between the 1 hour, the fumigation, the disinfection, of course not fumigation, but disinfection. How long must we, I mean, in between, how long should we expect, or in terms of duration, how long must we wait for one service to close and then another service to also begin? So I think these are the nitty-gritties we all are looking very much forward for the religious, the Minister for Religious Affairs to come out with.
And it's interesting that you mentioned that, because we also have been joined by Most Reverend Dr. Paul Kwabena Boafo, who is chairman of the Christian Council of Ghana. We'll get his perspective, but I wanted to find out from you, Dr. Silverkin, 1 hour, the 1 hour given or allocated. Right, Doc, thank you very much for your time. Dr. Silverkin, back to you. The 1 hour space given by the president within which religious gatherings should be held. From a virologist perspective and looking at the character of viruses and the way that they work, it doesn't make gatherings any safer?
Like I said, we need to be treading cautiously, because after one service, then it becomes very important for us to disinfect items. And even within the church service, we need to make sure that we have implemented certain things to prevent the spread of the virus. Because look, as for this virus, all it needs is for human beings to gather. And if one person has the virus, then chances are that once we have gathered and we have, for example, decided to hug ourselves, hopefully, I hope, and I'm really thinking that there won't be any hugging, there won't be any shaking of hands. For example, when it comes to common items we use during church service, i.e. communion bowls and offering bowls, some of these things, I doubt if it will be practical for them to be disinfected, but maybe we may want to use central ones or common ones placed in front of the congregation so that everybody gets up and walk. And whilst we are walking, we need to ensure that we are maintaining that physical distancing space. So I am really looking very much forward to how we'll be able to implement some of these things. I don't know whether our men of God will still be doing the laying of hands on people. I'm sure the most reverend is already laughing. I'm sure these things should gradually be things of the past. I mean, I don't know. In fact, when it comes to the registration of names, we know that this virus is such that it can stay on surfaces for a very long time. Things as simple as pens. Are we going to use one pen for everybody to use in writing? I'm sure that even though the president has outlined certain measures, and hopefully the Minister for Religious Affairs will also come out and outline more, give out more details. I'm sure the individual churches would also need to bring on board experts so they help them come out with some very, very simple and practical ways of ensuring that at least we are also meeting together to worship our God. And of course, once we meet, the president said it, we've got to be in nose mask. And I hope and pray that even our church leaders will adhere and make sure that the congregants, because this time it has to be leadership by example. So that if my leader is not in nose mask, then of course, the congregants will also not be in nose mask. And I hope that, as for some churches, they will definitely adhere to these measures. But for other churches, I don't know how they will be able to do that. I hope and pray that one man of God will not just stand up and say that, look, the Holy Spirit is telling me that even the nose mask you are wearing, it is not from God. So everybody remove your nose mask, and then I'm sure that there will be chaos within such church buildings. So
we'll see how that goes.
Looking very much forward.
Let me bring in Reverend Dr. Paul Kwabena Boafo, chairman of the Christian Council of Ghana. Doc, thank you for your time this morning. And
thank you too.
Right. And the question that I want to ask you, Doc, is whether or not the church or religious organizations put pressure on President Akufo-Addo to do this at this time, despite the soaring figures in the case count we're seeing.
Thank you. Good morning, and good morning to your viewers, and good morning to the virologists. I thank you for your words. We did not put any pressure on the government. In fact, I came out several times to make that point very clear, that we're leaving the easing or the lifting of the restrictions to the government and the scientists. And so all the heads of churches we met, and it was very clear before we presented our guidelines for reopening, that we are not putting any pressure on the government. The government should come at his own pace, and that is what happened.
Right now, we're looking at 25% of congregations having to meet, at least. Yeah. So we shouldn't have beyond 100 people. What do you make of that?
We think that it's a good start, because the president said we are having it in phases, and so for 100, though in some of the congregations 25% will be more than that, and those who have more spaces, 25% and 100 maximum will be a small figure. But I think we can start with that, observing the social distancing and making sure that all the protocols are also observed. And then if we are looking at how now we want to come in with the registration, writing of names, and then sanitizing and all that, I think that the 100 will be a manageable number for the start.
Dr. Sovakin was, raising some concerns.
Yeah.
We believe, for those of us who are Christians, we believe, we have faith, we trust that the men of God who lead us are speaking the mind of God. She's raised a very key concern about how we tend to follow in what our leaders say in church. So when someone says, well, the Spirit is telling me that we should not wear masks today, the Spirit is telling me that we should pray and sit together, what is the council doing about some of these potential occurrences? Are there any sanctions? Will there be any sanctions for people who go against it? Is there a plan to make sure that we don't see some of these things coming up?
Right. Thank you very much. But if you look at our document, we have mask wearing as part of it. We have social distancing as part of it. So we believe in the scientific addressing of this pandemic as a church. We are not in any way against all the protocols, the hand washing. It's even what God wants us to do. Even as we come to him, we should be clean, we should wash our hands, and then observe all these things. So I don't think that the Holy Spirit, if indeed we are operating within the power of the Holy Spirit, he is a God of order, a God who obeys, a God who wants life for the members. And so if we are talking about life, we are not looking at a situation where you are going to throw away all these protocols, and then at the end of the day, people are infected and then they go to die in their homes, or they don't come back to the church again. That will be a very wrong thing to do. When it comes to the sanctions, we as the Christian bodies don't have that mandate to be arresting, but we'll be appealing to our members to observe the protocols that we ourselves put together and sent to the government. We will have to follow. Those who will not follow, but will want to do things contrary to what we have put forward and what has been given to us as way of preventing, then the law will deal with them. That one, we have said it several times that, see, some of the things that some men of God infringe upon are against human rights. And the laws are there for all of us. They should be arrested. We should not fear that when we do these things, God will be against us. God wants order. And that order is that this is the way we should go. When the churches were closed, when the chapels were closed, that was God's way of bringing about sanity. And we are here talking about life. If life is at the center, then everything that we can do to preserve life, we should all be part of it. Our paper also stated that this fight is a whole state and a whole society, a whole government approach. And when we talk of a whole society where the church is a major stakeholder, we have to play our part. If you saw us with the president as we visited him, we're all wearing our masks. We didn't say that we are men and women of God and so we don't fear COVID. That was not what we said. We all wore our nose and face mask to show leadership, to tell our members that this is the way we have to go. And it is a way to prevent. It is a way to give us life. Christ came that we may have life and have it more abundantly. So whatever we will do to save our lives, that is what we have to do.
Doc, I'll come back to you again with what your expectations are of the Religious Affairs Minister on the very detailed plan that the churches are supposed to follow in implementing this. So I want you to think of that briefly. Let me come back to the studio and engage Sheikh here. Sheikh, you've had the perspective of the church.
Yep.
How will this pan out in the mosques?
I had suggested earlier on, and I want to put it here again, we intend to encourage the formation of COVID-19 prevention committees at the mosque levels.
Okay.
And that could be at the national, regional, district, community, and neighborhood mosques, where these things, in most of the neighborhood mosques, the limit set can apply because the number may not reach 100, because it is within a neighborhood. So then the protocols is what we need to uphold. For example, you want to see the entrance point, what sanitizers has to pick, or Veronica bucket set over there. I'm even thinking that we should even now begin to use the temperature gun to ensure that the temperatures are, determined before one enters. We are also thinking about, my slogan is, one man, one prayer rag.
Okay.
One man, one prayer rag or prayer mat.
Hasn't that always been the case?
No.
People share mats?
Optional, but we have a permanently laid mats in the mosque all the time.
Right.
But there are those who can afford, and so they come with their own certain designed kind of prayer mats which they spread. But this time it should be mandatory that everyone comes with his own personal mat. I'm thinking about our ablution bay. Instead of using water cans, we are asking that everyone, one, perform ablution at home, or you come with your own personal water can, which you use for your ablution, or we use taps which also must be repeatedly be disinfected at any time one uses it. Then we really have to do that. We are likely to face problems with the major mosques.
Okay.
And that's where we talk about the difficulty with the partial lifting.
Give us some of the major mosques you are referring to, and what problems.
If you take Accra, I mean, we have certain mosques, we call them a regional central mosque, or central mosque within the regions. For example, if you go to Tamale, the main Zamio Mosque, for example, is the major mosque, which attracts huge congregations. If you go to Kumasi, for example, the regional mosque, for example, we call it the regional mosque. In the whole, that's the central. If you come to Accra here, where the chief imam worships, for example, Abosokai, is the central, and it's a whole community surrounding it, so it attracts huge congregation. And because our form of prayer is time bound and is fixed, it doesn't change. Then you have a difficulty even saying that you're going to have session by session prayer because the time is fixed, and that sort of thing. And secondly, our culture and tradition of worship is different. So, for example, if Chief Imam comes to Abosokai, you might have it's Herculean, to say, okay, only 100 people are entering, all of you now turn away and go back, or you are waiting. So I had mentioned that earlier on for caution. But I'm happy that the details will have to be designed by the Minister of Religious Affairs. What it means is that I expect the Minister to invite inputs as to how we can effectively do this. Other than that, implementation at our level could create some difficulties, and that's why we said, for us, government should do a proper assessment of the risk. If it's proper to lift it completely, then let's lift it, and then we now observe the protocols. But the partial one can create some difficulty,
especially for the Muslim community. Yeah, I see the problem you're raising here. So your time, so if you have to go to the mosque at say 5 a.m., everybody has to go because the prayer is for 5 a.m.
Exactly.
Isn't there a way to readjust this so that the people can pray, do the prayer, even if it's 5, and you can do it at 6 or 7? Isn't that possible?
Well, if within the broad rules of our jurisprudence, some of those flexibilities are there, but it depends so much on the time lapse, between one prayer and the other.
It's 1 hour not enough?
Yeah, it can be 1 hour. It can sometimes can be even be 2 hours. But you are also praying within. We have the preferred time, and then we have a deferred time.
Okay.
Now, so if you go outside of even the deferred time, so therefore it means that you are not praying within the time fixed. Okay. And the Quran says that prayer has been made obligatory for you to be said and performed at fixed times. That's what the Quran says.
Okay.
So, and the fixed time here is within a certain range. Okay. Going outside, it means that, in fact, for those who understand our jurisprudence, one of the conditions for the validity of prayer is to say it within its time. So it's a rule that you need to respect, and that's why for such decisions to be made, sometimes it requires a certain kind of input and understanding our tradition and culture of worship, so that we are able to cooperate very well.
Okay.
And then also, you are dealing with a larger tract of society whose mind has been oriented towards these things. So that's why I'm saying that sometimes it can be Herculean getting people to understand this. But I hope that when the minister sees it necessary to invite, so that we can make inputs. As I entered from far away from Sunyani, the secretary to the regional chief imam there was quickly asking me now, what are they going to do?
What's the plan?
So I told them, I'm just at the studio. From here, I'll rush, and then we begin to see exactly what are the things we need to do.
And given the fact that there isn't enough time on your hands at the moment, the announcement has been made. So people perhaps are already start thinking of Friday. It's just on Friday. So people are perhaps looking forward to trooping to the mosque at the moment. So it looks like there's a time issue. In the unlikely events that you're unable to meet with the minister, what will happen on Friday?
In fact, like I mentioned earlier, my quick proposal, which would probably, if my brothers and sisters far away listen, is to quickly put together the COVID-19 implementation committee.
Okay.
Quickly put it together and begin to take certain initiatives, i.e., for example, how to control the huge crowd. You see, now there's a certain desire.
Yes.
Because of the long break. There's a certain desire.
Yeah.
I mean, now we can go back to our mosque. Yeah.
So now, everybody is in a hurry to get there.
So when they throng like this, and on Fridays, in fact, we don't have, strictly speaking, we don't have membership of mosques.
So anybody can go.
Just like you have a church where if you take the Pentecost and you have, in fact, membership are known. In our case, as a Muslim, we flow. And wherever I move now and there's a mosque and it's time for me to pray, I enter and pray. And that's how fluid ours is. So even when it comes to matters of registration, I mean, you ask yourself, I mean, you read somebody's name, the next time he's not coming here. He's traveled he came from Sunyani, it was time for him to pray, he came and prayed and he went away.
But at least we'll have the contact details so that if there's any follow-up to be made, we'll be able to follow up from there.
We're able to take those contact details. So those, and like the Reverend mentioned, even the timing, because you have a fixed time when you're going to say your prayer. Now you have a certain time you want to also say, everybody who comes in, you want to write his name, and it's not just write the name, but even his location, where he's come, his age or something, because you want to be sure he falls within the range of
So that will take
ages.
another time.
I mean, it will take a time. So it's a whole kind of something.
Interesting.
But we hope that we play our part.
Interesting. Dr. Silva, can I come to you? But I want to bring in Reverend Boafo. Well, the Muslim community is actually proposing for themselves the formation of a COVID-19 implementation committee. Is that something that will work for churches? And are you looking at that?
Thank you. Yes, it could work for us so that they could be going around to be checking on some of these protocols and how we are all following. And then even give us some feedback as to how best we can move to phase 2. The churches can look at these other lines as well. So it's something that it's worth considering. Okay. And as you mentioned, it is also to meet with the minister and get the details, because the president mentioned that the minister will meet us and give us the details. So we need to listen to him. Then we can make our inputs, and then we can all flow.
One would have thought that the proposal that you sent earlier to the presidency would have included a bit of these, because the restrictions have been eased effective for the Muslim community Friday, and for the Christian community Sunday. So there isn't a lot of time. Aren't there points of references in the ones that you sent earlier that we can work with at the moment? And if there are, can you give us highlights?
Well, thank you. For what the president mentioned, we had all in our document except the registration. The registration is what we didn't have in our document, and it's a new thing that is coming. But even before then, at one of our meetings, it was mentioned, because we're also listening and reading from outside the Ghana and what others are doing. And we saw that in one of the European countries, that was what they were doing, to register all those who come to church so that they could do the contact tracing should anything happen. And so it's a new thing that is coming on board, which we want to hear from the minister, how maybe they have put all these things in place. If there is nothing like that, then we'll put our heads together and see how best it can be done. Because writing 100 names with all the contacts and all that, as Sheikh mentioned, is also going to take another time. So how are you going to even restrict yourself and within that 1 hour to finish for them to go for another group to come and all those things? If we are going to wait for 15 minutes to disinfect or 30 minutes to disinfect, all these things should be taken into account so that when we are apportioning the times fortunately for us, let me put it this, we don't have fixed times and say that, Sunday church service should be within this time frame. No, we don't have that. So we can come in at any time and say that the services are from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And within these time frames, people can come in and have that is the multiple services that we'll be having.
Interesting. Dr. Sovakin, I'm coming to you. You've heard what the religious groups are saying. In fact, for the Muslim community, they're saying that they would have preferred a complete lifting of the ban on social gathering because of the time factors that they have, because of the nature of the fellowship, etc. From the biologist perspective, what do you see?
So I think our brothers and sisters in the Muslim community, they have a unique situation. And I'm happy Sheikh was very candid. I mean, looking at the difficulties even regarding the ease of some restrictions, it will really be difficult. And honestly, since we are at stage 1, I don't expect the president to go back and say that for this peculiar situation, or because of this peculiar situation, all of you can go together and fellowship or worship. So it will be very, very difficult, nearly impossible for our Muslim brothers to congregate and worship, looking at the fact that for them, they have fixed times, they have fixed prayers. For example, you can just walk into any mosque and say your prayers. I mean, obviously, your details will be taken for any potential follow-ups to be done. I don't know whether before this announcement, they were doing any remote participation in terms of worship, for example. So maybe they can decide that for vulnerable populations, so for those who are maybe more than 60 years, they may be advised to worship from home if that is possible. I think we may ourselves, both Christians and Muslims, Buddhists, Hindus, we may have to also come up with some very unique means for us to adapt to enable us fellowship with our brothers and sisters. It will be very, very difficult, but I'm already foreseeing a lot of difficulties, especially with our Muslim brothers and sisters. For example, the fact that they have fixed times and they have fixed prayers, and the fact that you can even also walk into any mosque and pray. And I'm happy Sheikh also indicated that they plan forming some COVID-19
implementation committee.
Yes, implementation committee. I think this is a laudable idea. I think that I always advocate for local ownership, because if community members themselves set up such committees, they will be very vigilant. They will make sure that they themselves are adhering to the rules, responsibilities, and regulations regarding the formation of such groups, i.e. what they are supposed to do, what they are not supposed to do. And he also mentioned the use of single racks, prayer racks. Yes. I think this is also very good. And even if we want to extend it to our Christian brothers and sisters, things such as hymnals, things such as prayer books, I think it's about time we may want to do a lot of projections. I'm sure most of them have TVs or screens in their places of worship, so we can be using these projectors. We can even decide to do a lot of photocopies. And when it comes to, I'm sure in our churches we use mics, maybe we may want to adapt one man, one mic, for example, or we may want to ensure that these microphones are disinfected right after use. It is going to be very interesting. It is going to be very exciting. And I'm really also looking forward to a model church, a model church, or a model mosque, where such places will serve as examples. And I think these are things we may gradually want to be doing. I'm looking forward to a church becoming a model church for almost every single Christian church or fellowship to look up to, as well as a model mosque where people will themselves come up with some mitigation measures, of course, following on the advice or what the president has outlined, and hopefully what the Minister for Religious Affairs would also outline. But I'm sure there are a lot of interesting days ahead of us.
Certainly. We'll come back. But so I'm starting with you, Sheikh. Now, people are very excited. They want to go out. So you mentioned that there is a possibility of overcrowdedness, example. How do you know that I am part of the first 100 to get to a particular mosque? Or are you going to make an announcement, like you do from the mosque when you are calling for prayer? How will people know?
I mean, that is the difficulty. Actually, we foresaw during the meeting with the Council of State, and we said, for us, we are likely to hit the trouble whenever it is made partial because of these things. Sometimes you enter as an imam, you are in front, and everybody who's in the mosque is also engaged. And so if somebody enters from behind, you might not be able even to know, except when you have somebody who, for enforcement reasons, you position the person, and whether the person has what it takes even to stop people from entering to come and engage. So I think for us to practice this in the kind of engagement and negotiation with the community is very, very important, because it has to do with what people are used to, their mindset, their orientation. Religion is something that's so sensitive, and in fact it becomes part and parcel of one's spirit, and the sensitivity that is associated with it is such that you are unable to really get people to shift immediately. So I think we have a duty, both at our level and at level of government and ministry, to really engage communities, to really find space in people's mind to accommodate these things. Other than that, the difficulty will always be there. Yeah. When somebody is coming, you tell him out, and then he's not happy. Because he doesn't even appreciate the just very well. And also the possibility that people will then start also massing up outside, even outside there. In fact, that is, you see, and that is the danger, because now they are coming in their big numbers. You create a traffic because you block it, and they say, okay, they are not going away. They want to, even let's assume the second session will come, they want to wait. So they wait. And they another crowd. Okay. Okay. Okay, and perhaps you all might also want to encourage praying at home, like he said. Let me quickly chip in this. I was having discussion with some few, for example, the age limit. Yes. For example, if you take some people of my age, we still look strong, though I mean we above 60 years. Okay. So myself, I'm an imam. So how do you restrain me from going to the mosque? So we were saying that 65, they can't be discouraged, but not prevented. But 70 and above may be prevented. And to do so, you need to really make them understand that it is for their own good. It is not there just to kick them out from the worship, but that for their own good, their safety, and so on and so forth. That's why. And do a very good, audit our safety arrangements. All right, all right. Audits on safety arrangement. Professor Alfred Yostin is here, joining us. He is head of the Department of Community Health at University of Ghana Medical School. Prof, thank you very much for your time. First of all, what's your assessment as a public health expert of this easing of restrictions?
Good morning, and thank you very much. Happy to be here with you and to all your listeners. Yes, as we've said, we are anticipating very interesting days ahead, because we were also expecting a tempered release of the restrictions, yes. However, we can foresee huge challenges in the circumstance and the way we are going, and especially just given 1 week for all this to happen, especially for the churches and the mosques. How much preparations have gone in there, and as we are saying, our critical fear is the crowding, and that is where the challenge is. 100 people come in, how to manage it is really a test case that is going to be for us. And how do we manage it, especially when for close to 2 months, we've been struggling as a nation to even insist on people wearing face masks. That is our fear, and that is our challenge in the days ahead, because it's something that we should all be mindful of. If the cases are rising and rising gradually, the system can contain it. But if we create the scenario where there will be mass infections and the numbers exponentially increase, then it becomes challenging. We are hoping we won't get there, and we are expecting that stakeholders, in this case, community leaders, church leaders, we will demand full accountability and responsibility from these persons, as well as the state organizations whose responsibility it is to enforce this. It is always going to be uncomfortable for some groups and for some people, but we need to do so that we protect each other, and we are there for all of us. Otherwise, we are going to have challenges going forward.
But Prof, you paint a very gloomy picture, but that's the reality. The reality is, as a public health expert, you are concerned. I have the leaders here with me. I mean, some of the leaders here with me, the Christian Council. I have the spokesperson for the Chief Imam as well here. From a public health perspective, what advice can you give them in terms of implementing this ease of restrictions, if you like, at least having 100 people? What can they do to minimize, to the barest minimum, any potential of infection, should there be?
Yes, I think both Most Reverend and Sheikh have illustrated some of the actions they want to take. And critical among this will be the engagement of their congregants. community engagement will be key for people to understand that we are doing this for all of us, and that some people may not have the opportunity, as being suggested, to come to the mosque or to the church. But that is not like preventing you from worshiping, but it is to protect you and protect others. So I think the most important will be the engagement of this, not trying to enforce strictly, because as Sheikh said, religious matters go to the very core and the heart of people's behavior. And people may tend to be violent, may tend to resist, and then create scenes that you wouldn't want to. So I think the engagement and probably setting up committees, small committees here and there to engage these people. The leaders alone cannot do that. And then soliciting the support of the media and persons in positions to also continue to engage the members of churches, members of mosques. It is the way we can go along it, because strictly enforcing and using brutal force will not work in this case. You need to appeal to people's conscience for people to understand that, yes, your health is your personal responsibility. However, you have responsibility to protect others as well. And when people understand this with the leaders that they trust so much, we believe we can make a headway in this regard. So the engagement will be key in this.
Okay. I'm going to wrap up with final comments from each of you. But before I do that, Prof. Yosin, I also still want to engage you on this briefly. Are there any expectations of the ability? Okay, let me put it this way: our health system. So far, we have been told that our health system has been able to function properly because we are not waiting till people are critically ill before we go, because we are doing testing. But do you think that our health system at the moment will be able to suck in any mass infection, as you indicated? And how can we deal with that whilst we prepare to open up? How can we deal with the expectation that there could be a level of mass infection?
The health system, we will say, currently is coping. We won't say we are very comfortable. Health workers who are involved, who are in the front line, are stretched. But as per our training, we cope under whatever circumstances. But there is a limit to how much people can cope and how much the system can cope for how long they can. We should also be mindful that we shouldn't concentrate only on the numbers of deaths resulting from COVID. If we do that, we are being unfair and unjust to ourselves. We need really to look at whether non-COVID related deaths are not increasing. Because if we concentrate and people with diabetes, people with hypertension who would otherwise have had optimum care come to the hospital, and because of COVID, we neglect them or we are unable to give them the optimum care, these people may end up dying. And these are all Ghanaians. Any death is death. It's not only COVID death that we should be worried about. That is why we are always insisting that we should slow things down and we shouldn't create the opportunity for the numbers to escalate. Our health system, unfortunately, will not be able to cope in this circumstance. We are doing very well, trying to increase the number of testing centers, trying to get more isolation centers. But when it comes to the area of critical care, we are still really not there yet, especially in the regions and in the district. And the center cannot hold. For how long will the centers in Accra, Kumasi, and the big cities able to hold if we are not able to strengthen the other regional areas? So going forward, I think we should be strict and take proactive measures in strengthening the peripheral systems, regional hospitals, to be able to take care of critically ill persons.
All right. Let me take final comments. I'll start with you, Dr. Silverkin. You've heard everything. We've had this conversation. In fact, we started with you. What's your takeaway? What should people take away from this conversation from your virologist perspective? Okay, looks like you're muted.
Yes.
Okay, I hear you now.
Before I answer your question. So in addition to what Professor said, I think it's important we really plan very well we prepare, and we also respond. So we know that already almost every single region has recorded a case or some cases, with the exception of Ahafo. But I think we may want to look into the health-seeking behavior of our people, because we don't even know whether people are hiding in their rooms, especially because in Ghana we've realized that 91% of those who tested positive are actually asymptomatic. And we know that there's the DIMS, the District Health Information Management System. So there's this database. We may want to be looking into it to ensure that in terms of pneumonia, high respiratory related infections, people are actually not reporting to our hospitals. I think we always need to be keeping checks and balances on these things, i.e. the health seeking behavior of people, as well as our health information system. Like Professor said, we don't want our health systems to be overwhelmed, but I think that already our health systems should go into the active mode, because we don't know what will happen today, we don't know what will happen tomorrow.
Right.
In terms of the discussion we've had, I think we should all be very, very careful. So the president indicated that if you think, for example, your church is not ready to open up, I think it becomes very important that you still adhere to the remote participation, because if your church is such that you have a lot of so-called vulnerable congregants, then I think as a leader, you should definitely advise your people that, look, this is for your own good. And even if you want to still go ahead and open up your churches, I think you should lead by example, because as a leader, you should learn how to wear the nose mask very well and how to remove the nose mask as well. If we want to register our congregants and somebody sits in front of you, will the person, for example, remove the nose mask and speak to you? Or I think a lot of things we may have to put in place to ensure that at least we are limiting the spread of the virus. Remember that we may not be able to halt the transmission of this virus, but we can only through some simple mitigation measures limit its spread, so that at least our R0 will go below 1.
Thank you very much, Dr. Silakinde. And let me take your final words as well. Well, let me come to the studio and take your final words, Sheikh, as well. What should people take away from this conversation?
As quickly as possible, I think the initiative to form the COVID implementation committee about 4 churches and mosques for me is something. Secondly, if the minister is listening to us, this is a time not to waste time to quickly engage. To a larger community, I mean, COVID-19 is still a reality. It's a phenomenon living with us. Let's continue to maintain the protocols.
Thank you very much, Sheikh. And also, I'll take your final thoughts, Reverend Dr. Boafo. What should people take away?
Thank you very much. It's been good talking to you and listening to my colleagues. It's giving a lot of insight from the scientist perspective and from my brother Sheikh's perspective. I think, one, we all need to prepare. The preparation from now to Friday or to Sunday should be very intensive, in the sense that if we are not ready for even the coming Sunday, we should say that no, we'll wait until the following Sunday, which will go a long way for all of us. And we should also know that as churches and mosques, we play a major role. We are major stakeholders. We can help in making these restrictions work. If we are easing it, how do we come in as major stakeholders to make sure that the country does not go beyond the things we are seeing outside? It's life here. It's life which is at stake, and we should all be concerned in making sure that our people are alive. So churches, my colleagues, I'll plead with all of us to exercise restraint even from now and not rush. We should sit and think through it. We will be ready to meet the minister and make sure that whatever plans are put in place, we will go by them and make sure that the people of Ghana live. for all of us. That's what I would want to say.
Doc, thank you so much. And Prof. Austin, you join us later. So I wanted to give you the final word, but I believe that you've spoken a lot already. If you do have any final words, you can add up to it as to what people should take away.
Yes, I think we will be grateful as a nation to our leaders, our church leaders, and the leaders of the mosques in this regard. We will plead with them, as we say, responsibility and accountability. The nation will be key. And if we feel we are not ready, we should tread cautiously and open up as and when we are, and show by example, as we have discussed, as leaders, so that we encourage our congregants to abide by the rules. Not in a harsh manner, as I say. People will rebel when you do that, but we need to continue to appeal to people's emotions and let them know why they need to do what we are asking them.
Prof. Austin, thank you so much. I've been doing this conversation with 4 great people. Dr. Augustina Silverkin, she's a biologist with KCCR. Professor Alfred Yosset is head of Department of Community Health, University of Ghana Medical School. And Most Reverend Dr. Paul Kwabna Boafo is chairman of the Christian Council of Ghana. I had here in studio with me Sheikh Arimi Al-Shaibu, spokesperson for the National Chief Imam. It's been a great conversation. Thank you so much for joining in. Most of you have sent messages. We'll read them as and when we get the chance during the show. But we wish to apologize to our cherished audiences in the UK for their inability to access us through the TuneIn app as usual. Remember, though, we are available on myjoyonline.com and abdomonline.com. You can also access our streams on Facebook, Android devices, Google Play Store, and Apple App Store as at myjoyonline.com and Adum Online. Also, I need to let you know this. The National Service Scheme has started processing prospective National Service personnel for deployment to various sectors across the country. MMDAs, ministries, departments and agencies, education institutions, hospitals, security agencies and private corporate organizations. Those interested in hosting service personnel in the 2020-2021 service year should put in a formal request to the National Service Secretariat. User agencies should log on to the NSS website to submit their request for these personnel. Also, you need to attach names, email addresses, and contact numbers of 2 officials for this request. Agencies with special needs should contact the headquarters of the Secretariat for discussions. And remember, all requests must reach the NSS head office by 30th of this month. And for further enquiries, you should visit www.nss.gov.gh. National Service, service to the nation. I'm going to take a very quick break. Roland Walker will be back with a conversation on how you will be paying more for fuel. We'll be right back. This is the AM show. Maxwell Agbagba is in town. He's talking to people to find out how their own reactions to these ease of restrictions are. I'll go to Maxwell. Sheikh, when we come back to you, we will talk more about the details. And Professor Yeltsin has also joined us. Thank you very much, Prof, for your time. Let's hear from some Ghanaians who have been interacting with Maxwell Agbagba. What do they think about this? Will they go to church? Maxwell?
Well, it's a mixed reaction, Gifty. We've been through town. We went through Circle, went all the way to the ministries to find out from people who were getting ready, you know, to enter their offices, to sample opinions and find out from them what they make of the president's easing restrictions. The feedback we get from many of the people we spoke to is skepticism about how churches especially will be able to conduct their services with 100 congregants and then run shifts and then also just stick to 1 hour. Some of them have been mentioning the names of, you know, some churches they think will not be possible to stick to the 1 hour. Some of them also are quite excited that at least final year students get to go to school to write their exit examinations. But I have some of them here with me at North Ridge. We want to find out from them what they also think. Let me start off from you. Mommy, you're first.
What's your friend, Mrs. Ofori?
Sister?
Mrs. Ofori.
Mrs. Ofori. Mrs. Ofori, who can sorry, babe?
What's your friend, Bethany?
Methodist.
Bethany.
Okay, Bethany. Okay. Catch me. And now President Carr said, sorry, mbetimi back, but you're restricting me to 100 people. 1 hour as some point net was saying.
But so many because he say you will cry no. Yeah, so for Chief Cardinal Patrick Braxton, or may I saw online. Nina Eska, but Sabaya, your baby umpire see arena no quaintino, or two who watch I say a best idea. And to me, I be say more and never any purpose 100 and I the buy bet me 1 hour, bet me a bumpire and your meaty. Maybe 5 minutes for a bumpire and your meeting, it's a bumpire and your
Okay. Well, essentially, she's excited about the president easing the restrictions. She says that even if 5 minutes they would have to pray in the church, they would be able to do that. And she says she's excited that they have 1 hour to be able to pray. But let me find out from her. I saw, social distancing near the idea now, President Car, masks near the idea, say motion mask, a day to you more. So we shall bet me.
Because we bet me. Because say an anti bonting, I be sent me cook me, Mr. Max. Me ko to ade nyina me kasa for max nim nti ye betimi aye ne sa amana yeye because e beto nyu baby bi e betimi ahye max no ne sanitizer ne so ye betimi use amana timi ayeye se be ye bebo ye ho ban nti.
Okay. Well, I was just asking her whether the church will be able to stick to the protocol out there, whether the choristers will be able to wear their mask to sing and all of that. She says, I mean, she's in town and she's still wearing a mask, so she doesn't have any problem entering the church with a mask. And she thinks that the churches will be able to adhere to all the protocol, provide hand sanitizers, wear the masks, adhere to social distancing and all. Let me find out from Chief. What's your name?
Yeah, my name is Prosper.
Prosper?
Yeah.
Okay, Prosper, which church do you attend?
I attend Mighty Chapel.
Mighty Chapel?
Yeah, at Kashmir.
Okay. How many are you? Your church? What's the size of it?
We could be like, say, 1,000 or so.
1,000?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Tell me, a church with a population size of 1,000, do you think you'll be able to adhere to the protocol?
Because I'm thinking, so if my problem is if the president said 100 people should attend the church for 1 hour or so, 1 hour. So, okay, I think it's good. So 1 hour, then another person, another group of people will enter for another 1 hour. Okay. So I think it's okay. But what I'm thinking is the place will be crowded. Outside the church premises will be crowded. That's my problem.
Okay. So are you going to church this Sunday?
Yeah, possibly. You
go to church?
Yeah.
Tell us, what would you do before you enter the church? What would change for you? You go in your face mask, what would you do?
Surely. I have to wear the face mask.
Okay. Okay. Let me find out from your friends. Closely connected to easing the restrictions also is the issue of the compilation of the new voters register. Let me find out from Chief. I'm sure you've heard about the compilation of the voters register and all the debate about it. Yeah. Some people are saying that in this period of coronavirus, we shouldn't even go there. What do you think? Would you register if the Electoral Commission starts the voter registration process?
I'm not sure that I can even go and register because there should be a distance. And moreover, to the period that they are doing the registration is too. It's not by distance you do the registration because we don't have more time because what time they will finish before they will start doing the voting. So I feel like they have to close it. Okay. They shouldn't do the registration. Okay. Yeah. So they have to use the old voters register to do the registration.
Okay. But it's your civic duty. So if the opportunity is created, you will not go and register. Is that what you're saying?
No, I have to go and register, but it will be hard for me because the distance I have to check. Because it's too much people are there, I can't even go there.
Okay. You see? Great. Now the president has eased the restrictions. Are you going to church this Sunday?
Surely I will go to church.
You go to church? Yeah. Okay. What will change when you're going to church?
Because I have to, my nose mask and this thing, I'm supposed to wear washing hands and those things. I'm supposed to make sure that everything is there
if that thing is not there, maybe I cannot enter the church room. They have to go back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. There are those who, I mean, some people are kicking against the easing of restriction for churches because they do not think that the churches will be able to adhere to all the protocol. Do you think your church, which church? Do you think your church, ICGC?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think ICGC will be able to adhere to all the protocol?
Yeah, we can, because we are international, so we have to obey what the president has said. So we have to obey it and do it accordingly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Finally, before I go to your friend, final year students can also get to go back, to their various schools. What do you make of that?
Oh, it's a good idea, because those who are writing the final exams, they're supposed to go JSS, SS, university. The final people, they have to go and write their exams.
Okay.
After that, then they will see the further notice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Great. Chief, you're welcome to join us.
Thank you.
Are you going to church this Sunday?
I'm a Muslim, so...
Oh, okay. My brother, are you going to the mosque this Friday?
Hopefully, I will.
Okay. Tell me, what's Ramadan like, during the restriction period when you had no opportunity, to go to the mosque and all of that? What was it like for you?
Oh, Ramadan during the day is a normal thing, whether restriction or no restriction. But it was after... I would say within the last 10 days. Within the last 10 days, we usually go to the mosque around 1 a.m. We pray till 3 a.m., then we come back. That was the change, but it's not much of a change because we still did it in our various homes. And some of us had some small mosques in our own houses, so we still prayed.
Okay.
Prayer is never restricted. Anywhere you are, if you are Muslim, regardless of the country, the region, anywhere. Just find a clean, neat area, perform your ablution, and then pray to your Almighty Allah.
The other time I was speaking to the spokesperson of the chief imam, he talked about some protocol that they will be rolling out. But you know that you have a personal responsibility to be safe. What are you going to do different when you go to the mosque this time around?
I'm sure washing of hands will be strict.
Okay.
You have to do it before you enter the mosque. So there will be nothing different. Just you wash your hands, keep your face mask on, and then the social distancing, standing on the mat. Because when the COVID-19 had not hit, we stand close to each other. We make leg contact, shoulder contact, and all that. But now that has changed. So you have to stand at least 1 meter away from your brother or your sister.
Okay.
And the imam also have to have his nose mask on when he's giving the sermon. It will be a little difficult, but with the microphone, I'm sure the message can reach across the 4 corners of the mosque.
Okay. Voters registration when it starts, are you going to register?
Hopefully. Okay. But to me, my personal opinion, if the old one can be used, why not use it? Why risk our lives? Okay. Because they will say we can still practice social distancing, where we are supposed to go and vote. One person here, within 2 meter or 1 meter distance, another person will be there. But if we can still use the old registrar, and there's nothing wrong with it, why not? Why spoil the money? Because the money can be shifted into another area and then help develop the nation.
Okay.
So that's my personal opinion.
Okay. Thank you very much, my brother. Allah bless you. Okay, great. So you just heard the views of some Ghanaians here from Northridge, from Circle to Ministries, and ended here at Northridge. It is a mixed reaction to President Akufo-Addo easing the restriction. We just hope to see what will happen on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Remember, we'll be keeping tabs on that and see how the churches and the mosques will be adhering to all the protocol. Over to you in the studio.
Thank you very much. Maxwell Agbagba there, coming to us live from Northridge, where he's been interacting with some people. You've heard the thoughts. People are actually very happy to go out.
I want to bring you a conversation on an increment that we expect on fuel. And we're going to have the COPEC representative, Duncan Amwa, right here on stream. But before we do that, let's run this by you. Your convenience and safety also means a lot to us, and easy does it. Now, make sure that you read all the news at home, because there's no need to leave your home or office when the news is now available to you on the go. get on your device now, and make sure that you download Graphic News Plus from Google, the Play Store, and then also the App Store. But also buy your e-copies of the Daily Graphic, the Mirror, Graphic Business, Graphic Showbiz, Junior Graphic, Graphic Sports, as well as videos, free news, and so much more. That's the plus for you. You also further enjoy some 10% discount on monthly subscription, some 15% for 3-month subscription, and 20% for 6 months and beyond. Graphic News Plus, connecting people through news. But it's where we have to tell you the latest as it is, and we do know that we're expecting some adjustment in prices and the components as far as the boss margins are in petroleum prices. And we want to speak to Executive Director of COPEC, Duncan Amwa, is already on stream. Good morning to you, Duncan.
Good morning to you, Roland. Good morning to join you.
Now, predictably, just take us through that statement that was issued by the NPA. And the first question will be, as you take us through, what will be the likely implications in the first place?
Roland, good morning again. If you recall, some 2 months ago, about 5 months ago, at the onset, when the year began, the NPA attempted introducing what we now have as an increased bust margin. That was kicked against widely because most Ghanaians were then coming from the Christmas holidays. We spoke against that clearly, that Ghanaians were going to be overburdened, considering that fuel prices were going up already. And so that was shelved. Eventually, it had to be withdrawn by the NPA after the Chief of Staff and the President had intervened. We had a bit of some consultations later or subsequently with BOST, the management of BOST, where they did some numbers that suggested that if they had a little push, they would be able to place BOST on a more efficient pedestal that allows BOST to be able
please do unmute your sound, perhaps if that is the difficulty, but we'll try and
hello, Roland.
Yes. Please go ahead. You were a bit silent, that's why, but it's the technology. Please go ahead, Duncan.
So that had to be decided by the consultative process. And probably they will be able to do better as a company, and Ghanaians will be able to rely on them for fuel security. And so it wasn't surprising for some of us when on Friday evening, the NPA issued a release directing that a new BOST levy of additional 3 pesos had been granted. We would have wished also that they had also gone to Parliament, but then again, in communicating this, we are told it's gone to Cabinet. We would want to believe that the right things will be done subsequently, although we had previously been consulted widely on these matters, and so we are quite aware of these.
What are likely implications on other adjustments of the pricing based on what the components are of the margins on BOST?
Well, Roland, with this increase in BOST margin, the effect the BOST margin increase alone would have had on pricing would have been a 0.57% effect. But then again, you are, in a new, what do you call it, window, pricing window. International price dynamics also have an effect on how much you and I pay for at the pumps eventually. As we speak, benchmarks globally have seen some increases, and that clearly should have manifested at the Ghanaian pumps some 2 weeks ago. But then again, the industry leader, GOIL, stepped in to say they were not increasing prices, and so a lot of the OMCs were forced to stay prices. As I speak with you this morning, I am quite aware that gold would have no option but also to increase because international market prices have gone up quite significantly over the past 3 weeks. If you look at the crude benchmarks, you are seeing almost a 40% increase from previous benchmark values. If you look at finished products, what is prevailing on Platts, you're also seeing almost 28% increases in finished products. And then again, the third factor here, the cedi hasn't also done too well over the past 3-4 weeks. And that, if you put the three together, the increased bust margin, if you put the global price increases that we have seen, if you also put the cedi's performance to the dollar particularly, Roland, it is quite certain that consumers from this morning may be paying between 5 and 8% price increases at the pumps.
But in order for us to also put all this into perspective, and even though we do know that it's because of BOST, we also have a greater understanding that BOST really needs to fix its infrastructure. And it also means that some of these streams become very much handy. Is that the case?
Yes, Roland, we quite agree. In fact, we took a working visit to the facilities of BOST about 4 weeks ago. And shockingly, most of the tanks needed some major repairs to be done on them. You could also tell that they needed some minimum expansions here and there in order that they could even have some LPG storage tanks here and there. And so they need some injection of funds. Now, as to whether BOST from hence would apply the funds that Ghanaians are committing to pay to the necessary infrastructure that they had promised, I'm sure that the media, civil society, and everybody within the downstream chain will have to keep an eye on there to ensure that we are not just approving funds for BOST and then in the end, they go around and dissipate these funds and only come back to Ghanaians another year to ask for some increased, funding. That would not definitely be countenanced. And so we are saying that, yes, they would need additional support, but as to what they are going to commit these funds to directly, the coming days will remain to be seen. But indeed, Roland, you are spot on when you say they do need some support, and that I also agree.
But we have to let you go because it's a conversation that is ongoing. But the last question would ultimately focus on what your own, if you look at what your observations are as a pressure group, as an agency, the outlook looks like for the next half of the year for consumers.
Well, Roland, if you look at the global perspectives on petroleum, it will be quite difficult that Ghanaians would expect the kind of reductions we had seen during the COVID era. Mind you, at the peak of COVID globally, economies had almost grounded to a halt. And so you saw demand for oil or fuel decline by as much as 30% globally. At the same period, you also had OPEC Plus, the group of countries that, produce the highest amount of oil globally, also taking a decision for some cuts to withdraw the glut or the oversupply situation on the market. What that means is that they are going to do their bit to force prices back up to normal point between the 50s, the 60s. Again, demand is also going up. The demand that had dropped to about 70 as we speak has gone back to about 90, with some economies, almost functioning as they should have. And so it will be difficult for us to expect within the next half year that fuel prices may drop any further. And we will be hoping that also within the same period, government policy would also be tilting towards ameliorating whatever hardships that any increases on the international market may deliver to Ghanaians. And so it would have to be a balancing act, and we expect government to play a very big role in managing all of this, although globally, fuel prices are heading south.
Well, thank you very much. Duncan Amwa is Executive Director of the Chamber for Petroleum Consumers. And if you go to the site also of the Bulk Oil Storage and Transportation Company, this is also well outlined, and there are main reasons why. Because the boss, MD, also says that the company really needs an immediate injection of funds or capital to enable the company protect the country's strategic asset, which also plays a pivotal role in the country's oil and gas as well as the energy sector. It's a conversation that is ongoing. We'll try on a regular programming on the channel to get more from other key stakeholders in the subject. But look, we have to take a break. When we come back, we'll tell you about the JN Minute, and it's a project that sums up everything that is some of the top headlines right here on Joy News just in 1 minute for you. And Justice Beidou is the man championing this for us. Do stay with us. And there's a new one, a new initiative again brought to you by your most reliable Joy News.
It's the JN Minutes project. JN Minutes project. We're asking you, what can you do in 1 minute? We want to tell you what we can do in 1 minute. A whole lot. Give you an idea of everything that happened during the week. And Justice Beidou, my colleague, is a producer of the JN Minutes. Justice is joining us. Hi, Justice.
Hi, Gifty. Hi, Roland.
It's good to. It's good to have you.
Justice, yeah.
You look like a politician.
Yeah. I love your pose. Someone will say passport picture.
Okay, let's do this in 1 minute, Justice. Let's do this in 1 minute before we get us now. So, what can we do? What are we doing in 1 minute, Justice?
Well, Gifty, we all know that media audience are increasingly moving from the traditional way of consuming our news content, and they are no more sitting in their rooms waiting for us to only come to them on the TV screens. There is more than enough data to show now that people are increasingly drifting onto their mobile devices, and they would want to still consume our news content on the traditional way, but then they would also want new ways to have the news delivered to them, i.e. on their mobile. And we do know that, especially in places like Ghana, where data is very expensive and people do not have a lot of time because they are working all the time, we need to find ways of getting our news out there in the most brief of forms. So JN Minute is basically the news of the day in 1 minute on your mobile phone. It is basically for our digital audience on Facebook, on WhatsApp, and on Instagram, for them to be able to catch up on what basically is happening in the country and beyond within the day, and to bring our biggest stories on Joy News to our mobile and digital audience in a minute.
And predictably, it will mean that it's going to happen each day or each time of the week or each time of the month.
Yes. So we this is a weekday. Every weekday we are going to be producing. As we start now, we're going to be producing one a day. But eventually, what we aim to do is to have 2 a day. So essentially, we're going to have one by lunchtime, and then we aim to also have another as we move on by the close of the day. So whilst you go out on your lunch and catching up with friends, having conversations, we want to come to you on your mobile device via WhatsApp, via Instagram, and then via Facebook, to be able to see within a minute basically what has been happening in the country and beyond. And then also by the close of the day, around 5:36, when you are driving back, stuck in traffic, or in a trotro with your earphones on, we just want to come to you and then give you a brief of the news within a minute. So yeah, that's the plan, Roland.
So Justice, how will it look like? Will it be visual? Will it be text? And how can people get it? Will it be on our social media platforms? What's the plan?
Yes, so this is going to be a really exciting content because we want, it's brief, it's just in a minute. And so we are putting together the best of graphics. It's basically a multimedia content. We have sounds of what's been happening, videos, short interviews, and then we have basically an anchor who will be reading the links. And so that is the plan. And what we will do in terms of releasing them is to basically put them out on WhatsApp, because Joy News has a WhatsApp following, and have it shared across many WhatsApp platforms. We would also be releasing them on our Facebook page, which is very, very popular with a huge following. And then we would also be releasing it on Instagram. So Instagram now has IGTV, so which has a vertical format video. So that is where we'll be releasing. Of course, Joy News has following on Instagram as well. And so we'll be releasing them on these 3 main platforms. And the idea is that it will then go viral, and no matter where you are, once you have a mobile phone, a smartphone to be precise, and then internet, you should be able to access GN Minute. And the whole idea is to reach this digital audience, have them take part in the news delivery that we have at Joy News, and then also send us our comment, because we do not want to lose this very critical part of the population in the country. And so that is why we are introducing this new idea.
Okay, thank you, Justice Blado, the team lead, the lead producer for JN Minutes, and it's all the news captured in 1 minute or 6-second brief for a day, and subsequently for a week and for a month. What a way for you to get the right sort of info. And we have predictably a couple of messages also from you, our great viewers.
We do. This is from Citizen Francis. He says the president was clear in his speech. He said the fact that we are easing restrictions does not mean we are letting down our guard. Let's continue to remain vigilant and respect the enhanced hygiene and social distancing protocol that have become a part and parcel of our daily routine. This too shall pass. Citizen, thank you for sending in that message as well. Okay. This one says, drinking spots are operating in Upper East region. I love that. And some bars are hosting sex workers, commercial sex workers. Are there exemptions for some regions? No, there aren't. No. And I'm sure that the authorities in the region will take a look at what's happening there.
Well, thank you for those messages as well, Gifty. But also for those of you who keep posting them onto our WhatsApp console, we say keep bringing many of these messages on regular programming and the content that we produce right here. But get interactive. We have Facebook Joy News on TV. We have a Twitter handle at Joy News on TV. We have Joy News TV, which is our official YouTube channel, and myjoyonline.com brings you all the best news that we aggregate on one platform for you throughout the rest of the day.
Is it a good day? Hasn't it been?
Have a listen to the president and the reaction so far this morning. I think that one. You had a great conversation with your guests as well, and I did enjoy it. Indeed. At least I can go to church this weekend. Social distancing.
But the Christian Council says do not be in a hurry to implement it. If you feel that your church is not ready, you have not prepared to do the social distancing protocol, to register people and all of that, if you're not ready, you can hold on and start next week. There's always time.
And the Sheikh also said that. Sheikh also said that. Well, that'll be it for this morning. Thank you for joining us. We're still on from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. same time tomorrow. But bye-bye. It is from us.